Increased productivity, an improved mood, and even better overall health. There are massive benefits of getting a good night's sleep. But what isn't commonly known is that a good night's sleep will also improve your tinnitus. So when I'm lying in my bed and I'm just about to fall asleep, that's when my personal tinnitus is at its worst point throughout the day. And if you are anything like me whatsoever, then there are days where I would do anything to get a moment's silence. So maybe, just maybe, these sleep buds by Oslo may be exactly, too many maybes there, exactly what you've been looking for to reduce your tinnitus. And today I'm going to share my experiences with them, giving you 5 reasons that you should try them, but at the same time I'm going to outline a few thoughts on why they may not be, that's right, not be the right solution for you. These are the results of a recent poll that I put out there on YouTube asking you, my YouTube community, when your tinnitus affects you the most. And to be honest, there were no surprises here, as based on the work that I do in clinic, this poll echoes the sentiments of our patients, whose tinnitus is most overwhelming just before going to bed. My tinnitus personally sounds just like this. It's there all day, every day, and like I said earlier, it's the most noticeable in bed when I also happen to have the noise of my day whizzing around my head too. So what about you watching this video today? I would love to know when you notice your tinnitus the most, and does it affect your sleep? Let me know in the comments beneath today's video. So I want to start today with the positives, of which there are many. For me, there are a few non-negotiables with this kind of tech. Firstly, if I'm going to be using them all of the time, they need to be able to handle being thrown in my travel bag without me needing to worry about damaging them. And I have to say that when I first opened this box, I was not disappointed. I am a sucker for decent packaging, and this new technology screams quality. Now, to give you a bit of context, it's worth me adding that the Oslo Sleep Buds are designed by former Bose engineers, who initially developed the Bose Sleep Buds, a product that gained a cult following, but was unfortunately discontinued due to battery issues. It looks like the team behind Oslo took that technology, refined it, and then created this almost identical looking technology. But do they live up to the hype? Let's take a look. So in the box itself, you'll get this sleek charging case, which I'll come on to in a second. There's a quick start guide and safety instructions, a USB-C charging cable, and various ear tips to customize your fit. These range from sizes 0 to 4, with the size 2s pre-installed on the earbuds themselves. So you should be able to find something that fits your ears. And more importantly, something that stays in your ears throughout the night. My first impressions are honestly wow. This hockey puck sized metal case screams premium and just oozes quality. It has a nice magnetic sliding lid that keeps everything locked in place, with the charger port on the back, rubber base to prevent sliding, and charging status LEDs along the bottom. Now it's also worth sharing that the case itself is also a piece of engineering genius and isn't just a case for charging and storage. It houses a bunch of built-in sensors detecting changes in light, noise and temperature whilst you're asleep, all with the view to help the sleep buds monitor your sleep, and I'll come on to why that's important later on. Now, Oslo are also boasting that they have even bigger plans for these sensors in the future around more advanced health monitoring. But just like any classic tech company, they're being a little mysterious at the moment and not sharing any more information. But in my opinion, it seems like they're positioning, or at least they will be positioning them as more than just a sleep aid. And in the future, they could become a full-blown sleep and wellness tracker, which would massively set them apart from any other sleep buds out there. Coming back to the earbuds themselves, they are absolutely tiny. In fact, they're minuscule when the interchangeable silicone casing has been removed. There is nothing to the wings, and they're incredibly soft, so that if you're a side sleeper, they should be comfortable, and this wing part will ensure that they stay in your ears overnight. You'll notice the charging contacts here and here with an obvious marker for your left and your right ear. They have a magnet that puts them into place, so it's foolproof when it comes to charging them. And then finally, the speaker is just under this grill here. It's a small detail, but I have to point out these perforations here that will allow sound to flow into your ear, yet prevents wax from traveling the other way through the grill and protecting the speaker from wax getting inside. This is pretty important given that they're going to live in your ears for 8 hours a night. and it's likely that with some users they'll spend a fair amount of time nestled in wax. In turn, this means that it's really easy to clean them, reducing the chance of the electronics becoming damaged through wax ingression. Other than that, physically there's not that much to them, which I like as they're nice and simple. One of the biggest complaints about sleeping with earbuds is discomfort, of course. And these are designed to sit flush in your ear canal without creating any discomfort or any pressure whatsoever. And I have to say that I don't feel any discomfort at all when they're in my ears. In fact, depending on where I'm sleeping, I often personally wear custom-made earplugs, and I found these equally as comfortable. Plus, they don't fall out during the night, which as a side sleeper, I was initially concerned about. I literally have nothing else to say on comfort because they do what they say on the tin. So great work, Ozlo. Well done. If you suffer with tinnitus, there is no question that sound therapy is key in helping to mask it. And the Sleep Buds give you access to 10 built-in sounds to choose from, which are all available via their app. When I started using this tech, I listened to each of them for 30 seconds to see which was the most effective for my tinnitus. So I would recommend you do the same to see which helps to hide your tinnitus the most effectively. But don't worry, I've got you back. As always, I've managed to get recordings to share with you today to see which is the most effective for you. So what I'll do is I'll run through them one by one now. So what do you reckon? Just from listening to these, I would love to know how effective these sounds are at reducing your specific tinnitus. Yes, you. So let me know if any stand out and I'll send your feedback through to Oslo. In fact, if you have any recommendations on sounds that you feel are missing, again, let me know in the comments because it will get back to them. So the big question is, did these sounds help to mask my tinnitus? Absolutely. There is no question that some were more effective than others, with my favourite being Crimson Cloak. And others, however, such as the Fire Glow, did help to mask my tinnitus. However, with the volume that was necessary to mask my tinnitus, there was no way on earth that I was going to be able to sleep with that sound playing in my ears all night long. So far, I have to give them the big thumbs up. Now, it might well be that masking isn't what you need to get yourself to sleep. And it's worth noting that on top of these sounds, Oslo have also added an option to stream your own content too. Whether that's listening to an audiobook, podcast, or even music, if that's how you're most comfortable getting to sleep. Now, I think that I would personally find this quite annoying, waking up in the middle of the night with a podcast playing. However, the Oslo team are one step ahead, and using those clever sensors that I was talking about earlier, they will detect when you fall asleep and automatically switch over to your preference of masking sound. Clever, eh? Now, this is all done via the Ozlo app, which I have to say is incredibly intuitive and used to set the sounds, adjust the volume, set your sleep timers, and even to set your morning alarm. As I mentioned earlier, there were reports that prior to being pulled from the shelves, the Bose version of this technology did have issues with battery life. So I'm pleased to say that Oslo have given the technology a complete overhaul from the inside out to remedy these issues. And I have to say that personally, I haven't come across any issues with battery life whatsoever. with Oslo boasting up to 10 hours of runtime. In fact, if anything, they've outlived my expectations, as the charger also carries a couple of weeks worth of battery too, so you can charge on the go without needing access to a power source. Saying that, I personally only get around 7 hours of sleep each night, so I haven't had the opportunity to test them to their full battery capacity. If personally you have, I would love you to share your experiences in the comments beneath today's video. Now, for the regular viewers on this channel, you'll know that whilst I am all about sharing the positives, I feel that it's important to share the potential downfalls with any new technology too. And like I said, whilst there are a ton of positive with the Oslo Sleep Buds, there are also a few minor annoyances that you should be aware of. But before I come onto that, you'll be surprised to hear that 75% of people that watch my videos haven't yet hit the subscribe button. So if I can ask a huge favour from you, if you've ever enjoyed my videos, then please press that subscribe button. I think it's down here somewhere. It helps me more than I can say, and it helps to grow the channel. And the bigger the channel gets, the better my videos will get. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of today's video. So let's discuss sound quality. The minuscule size of these earbuds does come at a cost, and unlike regular earbuds, the Oslo Sleep Buds will not produce high fidelity audio, not even close. So it's fair to say that the acoustics aren't going to blow you away. In defense of Oslo, however, that's not what they're designed for here. So in practical terms, as a result, there is very little bass in the sound reproduction. They just feel like they're lacking when streaming music, which might disappoint some of you out there depending on what you want to stream from them during the night. If, on the other hand, you're planning on using them for their intended purpose of streaming their sleep sounds, it won't be an issue for you whatsoever, as this actually makes them less intrusive and easier to listen to at higher volumes. Now, of course, I'm reviewing the Sleep Buds with two purposes in mind today. Firstly, how well they help you sleep by blocking out environmental noises. For example, if you live in the city and have noisy neighbours, or if you have a partner that snores during the night. And I have to say, they are second to none. I live in a noisy part of London and there is never a quiet moment, and they work. I have to say that I'm not allowed to comment in this video as to whether or not my wife snores or not, and how effective they are at blocking out that sound. They work. What they don't have, however, is built-in active noise cancellation, which, whilst it's a pretty standard feature in high-end earbuds these days, especially at this price point, the team behind Ozlo have made a conscious decision not to include this feature. I don't know if I agree with this next statement, given the times that I've fallen asleep on a plane wearing ANC headphones. However, this is why I'm an audiologist and a YouTuber, not an audio engineer. But their theory is that ANC can actually be counterproductive for sleep, as if you're in complete silence, your senses heighten and your brain is on high alert looking for sound, which, if anything does manage to creep through, will find a way to wake you up. In reality, I think that the main reason that these devices don't have ANC is that there's no way that on such a small device they'd be able to get the battery to last for a full 10 hours. Simple as that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Their approach is more about creating this gentle, consistent soundscape which masks those external noises without completely silencing them. So it's not about total silence, it's about creating the right kind of sound environment, like a cozy blanket of sound. The second reason for reviewing this technology today was to understand how effective they are at masking my tinnitus. In practice, it took me a little time to find the most effective sound to mask my tinnitus, and in the end, as I mentioned earlier, I settled on the Crimson Cloak. I do have to say though, depending on the day, I could still just about hear my tinnitus creeping through, even with the volume raised. Of course, this is a very personal thing, and you may have a completely different experience. Annoyingly, I also kept waking up during the night with the masking sounds, but that was 100% my own fault. Sorry, Oslo, because I didn't read the instructions properly. And I didn't realise that there's also a sleep timer, plus you can set them up to turn themselves off after a specific time. So if you try them out, please set them up properly, otherwise, like me, you'll wake up hearing their fire glow masking sound, thinking that your house is on fire. Now, Oslo do have a couple of different retail models. Firstly, you can buy them outright for either $299 or £299. Secondly, in the US, and I couldn't see this in the UK, they run a scheme called AutoFlex, which you can subscribe to them for $22 a month with no commitment and a model upgrade every 2 years, which in theory tells me that Oslo will be bringing out new models every 2 years. So yes, you'll be saving $30 if you cancel them after a year. However, in the long run, in my opinion, it's a pretty expensive option. If you're interested in them, check out the description to today's video and you'll be able to get your hands on them there. So how does this compare price-wise to other similar products, of which there aren't many, in fact? Well, the Soundcore Sleep A20s are less than half the price, but definitely have their quirks. And I'll cover them in another review down the line. I do have to say though, if you're looking for a way to invest in yourself and your health, then improving your sleep is a great place to start. Now here's an interesting one. One thing that I am especially careful of is not picking up my phone before I go to bed. A quick check of your YouTube comments or taking a look at how well a video is doing, and all of a sudden I end up down a rabbit hole and my mind starts whirring, which is the last thing that I want before going to bed. Why do I raise this? Well, when I was getting to know these devices, I was experimenting with them in bed and listening to various sounds. But this all has to be done via the app, and there's no way of doing this on the Sleep Buds themselves. In my opinion, it would be ideal if there was some kind of control, however basic, physically built into the Sleep Buds themselves. Now, I don't know about other users out there, but in the short period of time that I've been playing with these, I have seen this "Leave Sleep Buds in Case While Connecting" screen appear on the app far more often than I'd have liked to. And again, before I go to bed, the last thing that I want is the frustration of connectivity issues and having to fiddle around with my phone to get things up and running. I don't know, but perhaps this is a result of having the phone connected to the case and then the case connected to the Sleep Buds, and there are just too many working parts there. If anybody from Oslo is watching, I hope that these connectivity issues are something that you're looking at and you're able to remedy them with a simple firmware update. It is my least favourite thing about them, and I would love to see a fix on this as soon as possible. So should you try them? I've covered the physical side of things, the acoustics, the pros and cons, and the big question is, do they work? The answer is yes and no. Overall, my experience has been positive, and I think that they are 100% worth a try. Do they always block out my tinnitus? No. But that's due to the nature of tinnitus, and if I'm having a particularly bad day with it, then nothing will mask it. However, for the most part, the masking sounds did do their job. Comfort-wise, as a side sleeper, there were no issues whatsoever, but I do manage to sleep through the night whenever I wear them, undisturbed by any external noises as well as my tinnitus. They're easy to use, and there's no need for a speaker that may disturb your partner sleeping next to you. Now, I will say that before you go out and buy them, you have to check out my top lifestyle factors that you can easily change without needing any technology to reduce your tinnitus.